This week in the boathouse, Steve is on his own to wrestle the heavy rudder into place. But before starting on that, last week Steve shared some personal news about his mother's health that will affect how much time he has to work on the boat leading up to launch. So needing a few extra skilled hands around the shop, we asked for your help and support, and you definitely responded. We're hoping to raise a little more to cover the labor costs of getting this done, so all of our previous t-shirt campaigns are active again on Bonfire, with more options available for each design. Another huge way to support is to check out our Patreon page and just become a $5 a month supporter until launch and help us bring this boat to the water on schedule. Details in the description below. We really appreciate the help that you've given so far, and the goal is in sight. The first step for Steve would be to shape the stern post so it had enough clearance for the propeller blades. David sorted out the fitted pintles and gudgeons along with the pins, washers, and bushings that Joe had made for each of the three sets.
Sam for middle.
Any concern that the Acorn to Arabella sticker's upside down, or is that going to get adjusted?
Cool. So now let me just mark out where that hits.
How much of a gap do you think you need?
I asked Larry when he was here, and I wrote it right on the stern post. So 1.5 to 2 inches clearance with the prop. I'm gonna go with 2, and 1 inch between prop and bearing, which is about what we have here. And I'm actually buttoned up against the motor.
Okay.
So.
And is there a bushing that's going to go down? I forget what the name of that bracket is, but
In here?
yeah.
Yeah, so there's the Delrin shaft liner
Oh,
that
that's
Joe
right.
had machined.
Yep.
So that's in there. And then, yeah, we have it's a bronze brass sleeve with rubber lining.
Okay.
And one of those gets pressed in here and into the fitting on the inside of the boat.
Yeah.
So that shaft is no metal contact its whole way.
Yeah.
And we can cut this out at 2 inches, and if it goes forward or aft 1/2 inch as we settle the motor in, that's not going to make any difference. That's always fun. This morning I worked on getting the housetop sanded while I ran an experiment with the heaters. We started off this fall with just the electric heaters and then turned on the propane with the electric. And the last time we painted, it was a little bit warmer than it is now, and it wasn't quite warm enough. So before we commit to putting paint on this, I wanted to fire up the new propane burner with the one inside the boat and make sure that we're able to bring this tent up warm enough and everything's okay so that we can really cook this paint and get it to kick within a day. So the heaters worked great. The temperature came up quite quickly, and I feel really confident that even if it gets a little bit colder, those will be able to do the trick and we'll be able to get the paint to cure during one day, because we don't want to run the heaters overnight in here. We really want to get that finished while we're working. So now that this is all sanded and prepped, it is too late in the day to paint it and give it enough time to cure. So we're going to move on to the rudder. And the rudder is in the back of the boat, obviously, but that is in the shade all morning. And now the sun has had some time to come around, and that is in the sun, which will make working on it a lot warmer and a lot more pleasant. So that's going to be kind of the pattern. Come out here tomorrow, fire up the heaters, give this a clean while things warm up, put a coat of paint on it, let it cook, let the sun come around to the back of the boathouse a little bit, go work on the rudder, and just kind of repeat that process until this is all painted, the rest of the hatches are done, which we can do inside. So that makes that a lot easier. And we get this rudder hung. Our big challenge at the moment is getting 1, 2, 3 rudder pieces all perfectly in a line. These two are pretty easy. The one down at the end, getting it lined up with these two, is the tricky bit of business. So if this rudder fitting was like these, we could slide, a rod through them all and line them up, and it would be pretty easy. But it's a little tricky to get the edges of all these and figure out exactly the alignment with this pin here. So when David came by and gave me a hand with the rudder the other day, and we took it down and I worked on shaping it, he worked on problem solving how to get these lined up accurately, and he came up with this little wood jig system here. It's a little block of wood, and that makes up the distance from the fitting here to the edge of the hole where the pin is. And this one, the edges of it are shaped so that they are the same shape as the hole for the pin, and that means that they butt real nice and tightly across this hole, and they wedge this block in here. So this face of the block is directly in line with the inboard edge of where that pin is. So if we put a straight edge where my finger is, we can connect those and we'll know that we have the alignment for that inside edge of the pin. So if we clamp the Festool track like that, we're lined up with the edge of the pin here and here. And now we can use a square and get this one lined up. Check all of these. Seems tight. Seems tight. Just check. All right. I would call that good. I'm going to drill just the first hole here, and this will let me line these back up exactly where they need to be. I'm not going to bother drilling the rest of them at the moment. I want to get these all painted, get everything lined up perfectly, but this is going to let me put a bolt in here for now, and between that bolt and the shoulder, these will stay put, and we can play with them and we can work with them. And if for some reason I didn't get this quite right, we can plug that one hole, shift them a little bit, and re-drill. So we're not going to drill anymore yet. We just want to make sure that we can get them exactly where they are and for them to stay put. So I'm going to go scrounge up a couple of bolts that we can stuff in there at the moment. And then I think it's time to offer this up to the boat again and figure out what we need to do for the cutout in it and see if this hardware is going to seem to want to behave. So these are eventually going to get fastened with drifts. So just a length of 3/8 bronze that we peen on either end. But for now, I'll just put this one bolt in each and make sure everything wants to work. So you might have noticed that there's no Ann or KP around. Ann is back up in Maine for a while. She has got a life up there that needs tending to. And KP, unfortunately, is sick. So, whoops. Oh boy. So I don't expect to see KP this week. So I'm gonna be flying solo for a little while. That's there. Ooh, doggy. Okay. Well, that was fun.
At the same time as he was working on the rudder, Steve was also making progress with the coats of primer on the housetop and hatches. The gray base coats were sanded and smooth, and after washing it all down with denatured alcohol, on went the first coat of topside primer. Also, a couple weeks back, we were looking for someone to drive west for the holidays to pick up a bit of spruce to take to Bob Emser's shop for the spars he'll make for Victoria, Arabella's tender. A volunteer came forward, and Steve loaded up the goods for the trip to Illinois.
All right, Bob. Spruce is headed your way. So this is the first coat of topside primer. It's got the epoxy paint on. Underneath that is kind of a fill and a little bit of a fair coat over the fiberglass. And then it's got this topside primer. It's the wet edge. And this will get a light scuff and sand, clean up any little dribbles. And then on top of this is going to go 2 or 3 coats of the topside paint. And that will be a light gray. So it'll be lighter than the primer gray, but the house top will not be white. So I'm hoping 2 or 3 more days of giving this a scuff and a wipe down and a coat of paint, and a scuff and a wipe down and a coat of paint, and we'll get there. Man, this is tedious. But all the painting is done for the day. Everything's drying. The fumes have come down in here dramatically. And I'm going to go work on the rudder for a bit with the last daylight that we have and repeat this process tomorrow and the day after and the day after until the painting is done. Okay, so we have the 3 parts onto the rudder, and now we need to get their other halves located on the stern post. So here is our middle one, and I basically need to follow this plate up and make some marks on here on the stern post and get the angle and the exact location, because right now this doesn't fit on the stern post. So we gotta get that one to fit there. I gotta get one to fit up there. I think I can take out these guides that David made now that I have the holes drilled. That'll make fitting this a little bit easier. What if? So hanging this rudder is one of those instances where if I had done this a time or two, I would go a lot faster. If we were building Arabella in like a traditional boatyard or something, that would also make a big difference, because we could just walk over and be like, "Hey Joe, you've put on a whole bunch of rudders. Want to come give me some pointers?" But out here in Western Massachusetts, we don't have the luxury of readily having someone stop by and pick their brain about how to do it. And I've never done this before, and I really don't want to mess anything up. So we're going to go real slow and make a lot more marks and a lot more test fits and be a lot more careful than if I had done this a few times. So this is going to want to line up with that line that we drew. And this has got to be brought in more, because this is narrower than the stern post here is at the moment, but this can all get carved out and made narrower, no problem there. So that one has to go like that. So follow that angle. We'll have to cut a little more out of here. This one, this one's going to be the challenge. So that goes like that, but I have to drill at the correct angle through the stern post and get that one dead to rights. There's no wiggle room there once I drill that hole. That can't have any slop in it. So the question is, do I fit that one first or do I fit that one last? First or last? First or last? Ooh. Could be pros and cons both ways on that one. If I do it last, it'll be easiest to figure out exactly where it wants to land. But I'll have to get it exactly right. If I do it first, it's maybe a little harder figuring out where it needs to land, but not much. Not really at all. And then I guess I could get that one situated, and the other two I could move a little easier. All right. I think we need to get the top one situated. Oh boy, oh boy. Let the games begin. Okay, here we go. Held long enough. Yes! All right, a bit of wrestling, one pinched finger later, and we've got 2 out of 3 of these fittings in. So started with the top, that was ultimately what I decided, and got that one situated, got the washers in there, and it fit exactly where it needed to be, and then pulled the measurements for the middle one here, got that carved out, and the finger pinching good time was trying to get this rudder in there by myself and get the washers in and the bushings that Joe made in so that everything registered right. Got all that in and pulled the measurements for the last one here down at the bottom. So I think I get to take it all apart and I can get this bottom fit. And then this is almost ready to be fastened. Ooh, that's exciting. And then it'll be time to make a tiller. Also exciting. All right. Yeah, it won't be long until you'll be able to really swing it.
Well, I can already really swing it.
Yeah, but there won't be like all the lines and ropes that are stopping. You'll be able to go all the way over.
Whoa.
Now, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna jangle this rudder around, and you're gonna push that pin up and out of there without getting your fingers pinched. So what you don't want to do is put your finger in the hole,
Okay.
because there's the 2 pieces that move back and forth with each other, and that's where I can really pinch your finger. So I'm gonna jiggle the rudder, and I want you to push up on that until you can grab it from the top and then slide it out.
Okay.
And
so
me
I can
jingling the rudder around is gonna take the friction off it. So it's gonna like not move and then move a little and then not move and then move a little, and we just gotta work it till it comes out. Does that make sense?
Could I tell you where to wiggle it where it's most efficient?
We can try, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, see if you can push it out.
Pushing, 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 pushing. Yeah, we're doing it.
It's going?
Slightly.
Okay.
Yeah. not making much solid progress. Ah!
There you go.
This thing came out.
Yep, so you can put that on the
There.
staging as well. Yep. Now you can grab it from the top.
Got it.
Perfect. All right, and then see if you can fish out the washers and the other sleeves that are in there. We're gonna work it up towards us. You ready?
Out towards us? What do you mean?
Should swing out
Okay.
away from the boat.
Oh, I thought you meant like out this way. Hey, yikes.
I thought you were helping me.
I thought we were doing something different.
Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeesh.
All right, just coming down.
All the way?
Most of the way.
Okay.
Watch your toes.
Yep. I'm watching them. I'm being very vigilant.
Okay, that's locked. Gotta get that other rope out of there, and we can get the sawhorses. Cool, you're safe to go out.
You know?
And we are gonna need both the free sawhorses. There's one there and one at the end over there. Alright, keep pulling.
I am.
Okay, I got it. You got the rudder?
Yep.
Coming down.
Oh, well, this is easy. Well, jeesh.
All set?
Yep.
Can you jiggle it and just make sure everything's good?
Jiggling, 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 jiggling.
Okay, cool.
Jiggling. What? We're good?
We're good.
Okay.
Good, good.
Whew. Man, that wasn't even as scary as I thought.
Nah.